All right, friends, let's talk about my platinum carbon black experiment. Maybe we'll talk about first why I even started this and why there are so many pens on my pen tray. This is my TWSBI Mini with a reverse architect nib ground by Kirkspear of Penrealm. I have used this for almost 2 years now as my main pen in my creative journal. I love that it is a reverse architect nib because I can use the architect side to write titles and then the finer nib to write as much as I want to onto these pages. Even though I love broader nibs and more variation when I ink my pens with colored inks, I tend to love when it's a super fine nib with platinum carbon black or any document waterproof ink that I'm using. I have tried some. I'm always coming back to platinum carbon black, and I'm just going to accept that I'm going to use this at least until my ink bottle is empty. And if I don't have any issues with it, then I will probably stick to platinum carbon black. Now, this pen is a mini pen, and even though I can write with it unposted, it is not the best writing experience. So I'm always posting the cap onto the back. And as you just saw, it is a screw to post. And I do not really like that any longer. I would love to just grab the pen and use it. Now, I had this pen, the Platinum 3776 in black with a broad nib in my stash, and I thought, well, you know what? This has the slip and seal cap. It would be perfect to use with platinum carbon black. Let me take it to the San Francisco Pen Show and have it ground by Kirkspear to a reverse architect nib. Now, when I tested this nib at the pen show, it felt fine enough on the regular side. And I will talk about this and show you a writing sample soon. But at the moment, or when I'm using this, it feels like this is too thick of a line. So it will not be able to replace this nib just yet. Maybe I'm going to take it back to the San Francisco Pen Show next year and have him grind the regular side even finer. I don't know yet. Then I thought, I really love fine writing and a fountain pen in my planner. So I need a planner pen that has an extremely fine nib. So I purchased this one. The nib on this was quite scratchy, and some of my friends recommended a monoline grind, so I got this on here. It's a Platinum 3776 with a monoline grind, also ground by Kirkspear at the San Francisco Pen Show 2024. So these are the two pens that I thought I was going to use as my creative journal pens and my planner pens. Enter these ones. I'm really loving, now I forgot to pull it out, this Sailor Mini, Pro Gear Slim Mini with a medium fine nib. It is a little bit too broad to be used on these finer grids, but I thought, well, a fine nib would work really well. So when I saw this Line Friends Pro Gear Slim on sale at the pen show for $99, I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna get a fine and see how I like that with platinum carbon black. Now it was super dry, so I had Matthew Chen of Pactagon tune this to be wetter. Then my friend Nadia, we talked about pens that she would want to loan me and what I would love to try. She said she would have a Sailor Pro Gear with an extra fine nib for me to try. So that is inked with platinum carbon black. And then after my pen wish list video, someone commented and said they had a Pilot Vanishing Point nib unit in extra fine for me if I wanted it. So I was able to pick it up at the pen show. I had it tuned by Kirk Spear, and I purchased a Mahjong A1, basically Pilot Vanishing Point dupe in matte black to house this nib. This is the Platinum Carbon Black Experiment. 6 pens, 2 goals. 1 pen should be a reverse architect with a fine, extra fine nib on the regular side to use in my creative journal. And 1 should be a fine pen that I can use in my planner as a planner pen that will work in the grid of the Hobonichi weeks. So let's start with a writing sample and the pros and cons of the pen that I wanted to replace. This is the TWSBI Mini Diamond 580. I won't be able to write this on reverse, but let's just use this feature, TWSBI Mini in black with a reverse architect by Kirk Spear. Okay, so what are the plus? This has been tuned and ground to my handwriting. It has a great, the cap seals well. Cap seals well. It is wet, but not a gusher. This is important later. It is smooth. It is sometimes hard. So let's do the negatives. It is screw to post. This is a negative for me. I don't like that anymore. I don't like this. In the beginning, I thought it was a great feature, but it actually is not the right thing for me anymore. One of the negatives of this grind is that it is sometimes, now it doesn't show, sometimes it is hard to find the right angle for reverse. And now this is me being a total snob. I also feel like I love gold nibbed pens. I have pens that I can use with gold nibs that I can use for these everyday experiences. This is one of the pens that I'm using most. So why shouldn't I use a gold nibbed pen if I love them so much? So it's a snobby negative. This is a steel nib. I know what you think. I'm thinking the same, but I'm just going to be honest. It is a steel nib. I could use a gold nib for this because I had spare pens. The reason why the Platinum 3776s are in here is because they are not really working for me with colored inks. And because they're really finicky, platinum carbon black is quite a wet ink in my experience. And so I know that these pens will work with this ink, but I always have, you know, it's not intuitive. I can just put any ink into those pens. And so they would work really well with platinum carbon black. And that's why I dedicated those to these inks. Now, I will talk about this later. Let's talk about, so what should we talk about next? The ones that don't make the cut. Okay, so here's number one. The one that I thought was going to replace the TWSBI. This is not going to work as of right now because the regular side is too fine. So let's write it out. I had him ground. This is the platinum. .3776 in black with a reverse architect nib by Kirk Spear. I had him grind this architect on the reverse a little bit smoother. So I don't know what the actual word for this is, but think a italic nib grind. It's slicey and it has edges. Now, a architect nib is very similar to a cursive italic because it is, well, just the other way. And I wanted it to be like a cursive smooth italic, so a smooth architect. I don't know if that's the word or if they're or a rounded architect. He said it, but I didn't remember what the word for that was. And he did that, and it feels to me that when I put this reverse side to the paper, it's easier for me to find the writing angle. So I can also say that this has been tuned. And ground to my, well, it's not handwriting, to my posture. Maybe that's even better. The architect side is smoother and thus easier to use. I hope you can see what I mean. It feels like this pen puts down more ink onto the paper. Now it's also smudged. Wow, great. This has the slip and seal cap. And so it won't dry out easily. It's very smooth, wet, almost too wet. And that's almost the problem. So I probably will try this pen with colored inks. So negatives, it is too wet and too broad on regular side. And I'm going to show that to you right here. Let us open. The grid in the Hobonichi Weeks is 0.38 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. So if I'm writing in here, feels crammed. I cannot make this feel good. It takes too much effort to fit in grid. If you've been following my videos, you know that I usually do not care about the grid. If it doesn't work, then I'm just writing as big as necessary. Oh my God, how do you write this word? Necessary. Now, what I've noticed in my planner is that if I do not follow the grid, it looks messy. And that's okay if I'm journaling. But when I'm trying to plan and make a to-do list and actually be productive and successful with my tasks, it needs to be neat and tidy. This is not working. This is working. I think this was last week. This is this week. I can put in my things that I need to do. I can have titles, and then I can have lists, and they fill out basically only the grid space. This looks neat. I can look what I want to see, and it works. And the big thing about this is this one. Where is the page that I just opened? It takes too much effort to fit in grid. So if I have to put too much effort to write small. And maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe you can write any size you like with all the pens, but I find the finer my nibs, the smaller I write. The bigger my nibs, the bigger I write. Too much effort to write small. So my result right now, this is the baseline that I would like to achieve. What am I going to write? This is not suitable for my needs. And also always right now. I'm highlighting this, underlining it, because what I'm planning to do after filming this video is simply just empty this out. I am planning on doing a 31 inks, 31 pens, 31 postcards experiment in October, and this will be used with a fountain pen ink then. And see how I like using this as a regular in my rotation of colored inked pens lineup. What you can see is that I have two different types of pens. I have pens that I use for letter writing mostly, that I fill with colorful inks that I use for journaling, that have various nib sizes. And then I have those specialty functional pens. This is currently not a functional pen. And then I will give myself a year to experiment until the next pen show. And if I then decide that this pen will only work for me as a functional pen, I will either sell it and have used any of the other pens, or I will just have Kirk Spear make the regular side finer. So this is going to move into my cleaning bucket. Let's do the other one that I thought was going to be the most amazing planner pen. Now this is a Platinum 3776. in burgundy. It is an extra fine nib that was tuned into a monoline, or ground into a monoline by Kirkspear. So the pluses are very similar. This has been ground. Wow, there's an N missing. To my posture. A great thing about the monoline nib, it writes with any angle. If you have a monoline nib that is big, you will be able to make those beautiful hand lettering pieces. Check out Bechori, Beechori, I think 77 possibly, on Instagram. He does amazing lettering with monoline nibs. The speedball nibs that some people use for their ink swatches are monoline nibs as well. This is a tiny monoline nib, and it doesn't really do great lettering when it's so fine, but the amazing thing it does is it doesn't really matter if you hold it at a high angle or at a very low angle. It will write. If you go at it from this side, if you turn it that way, it writes all the time. So this is basically a point and shoot pen. You don't really have to think about your posture. You can write anywhere with this pen and it will write with any angle. Which is basically the same. It has the slip and seal cap. But what you can also see here is that the line, no, that's not a plus, that's a negative. The line is too broad. That's what I didn't expect. I knew that it was going to be a little bit broader than the original extra fine, but this also takes a lot of effort. Well, actually, not as much as the 3776 RA. So I need to test this again. Takes a lot of so currently I will leave this. I will not put a solution or a judgment at the bottom right now, because as I'm testing this with you right now, I feel like I should give this another fair shot in my planner, maybe this upcoming week, and just only use this pen so that I can see if I can make it work for me. So maybe I should put this right here. So let's go to one that is also a total no. This one. I think if I hadn't had it tuned by Matthew Chen, it would be okay. But you will see what happens when I write with it. Well, if it writes. I don't know how well this pen seals, and I haven't written with it in quite a while. So let's be surprised together. Sailor. You can probably already guess what I'm getting at. Pro, gear, slim. I'm just going to write Sally. This has a fine nib. It's a 14K gold nib. These two are also 14K gold nibs. And this was tuned by Matthew Chen. This pen is cute. This pen was tuned by Matthew Chen to be wet. This pen is cute and small, so it fits with my planner. A plus of this pen is that it is wet. A negative of this pen is, the negative thing of this pen, I don't even need to go into any more detail. This pen is too wet. I'm not able to use this neither in my creative journal nor in my planner because it's just simply too wet. And I think I'm totally okay with that finding. Maybe I should just put a bookmark or leave it open. Let's try. This will not really produce legible writing because the letters are so fat and blur together. Okay, tell me that this works for you. In this grid, it's fine. In this grid, of course it isn't. Letters are too fat and blur together because it lays down too much ink. This is not a suitable pen for writing in a small grid. And I think this is not just a right now thing. This is a let's empty this out and use this with colorful inks and just let this pen make me happy with colored inks. So that leaves me with my two winners that I totally did not expect. Let me use this one first. So this is the Pilot Vanishing Point. How do I write this down? Mahjong A1 matte black with Pilot Vanishing Point nib in extra fine. This was tuned by Kirkspear. This plus is, the biggest plus about this is a clicker pen. At the ready at all times. And another plus is that this is actually a fine line. Is one of the finest lines in this whole experiment. This is one of the and it's probably also one of the finest line widths in my whole entire fountain pen collection. So far, let's do this as a question mark. No long-term experience with drying issues. Out. I've heard that the pilot nibs in the Vanishing Point or the Mahjong A1 tend to dry out easily. That would be really awful with platinum carbon black. But I have no long-term experience, and so far, every time I have used it, it has worked. Writing in tiny grid is a breeze. Can you see how much easier it feels? I don't know if you can see this. This is the size my hand wants to write in with a nib size this tiny. So this is not an effort that I have to put in to write like this. And see how much fatter the lines are? See how much easier it is to read? Yeah. So, is there a negative? Currently, I'm not seeing any. The drying out might be a negative in the future. Oh yes, there is one. So what I do not like about this nib is that this nib is bouncy. And I know that a lot of people love the bounciness of the Pilot Vanishing Point nibs. For me, that is a negative with writing in small grids because I feel like I'm losing control. Is it with double O? So at the moment, this is a great planner pen. But it's definitely not my number one. The plus about this is that I was gifted this nib. It is mine to keep. I don't have to invest any money. Oh, you might be thinking, so what about this? Yes, this is not my pen, but this is definitely the winner in this whole experiment as of right now. This is the Sailor. Oh my gosh, can you hear the feedback? Pro Gear. And this name is super long. Hawaiian Ripe Coffee. It has an extra fine nib. I was loaned this, and I think my friend Nadia purchased this from Peyton Street Pens. I do not know if they tuned this nib, but this nib is absolutely fantastic. This nib is precise. This nib, oh my gosh, I cannot write, has amazing feedback. Without being stiff as a nail. I always thought that having feedback means that it has a nail-like feeling. That is what I get with the Platinum 3776s. But this one doesn't. It's a totally different experience. If you have thought that you will not like Sailor pens because they are supposedly scratchy, maybe you should try them, because to my personal surprise, I have fallen in love with Sailor pens. I don't know anything about the long-term experiment. Same with the Pilot nib. Does it dry out long term? I don't know. This is not a slip and seal cap. This is just a regular fountain pen. It might be an issue at a later date, but it's not. Plus, I can write tiny with this pen, but also big, as you can see. I have control. The only negative that I can see is this is not my pen yet. So Nadia said that she would be willing to let go of this pen if I wanted to purchase it, which is definitely what I'm going to do. Let me show you how it compares to the Pilot Vanishing Point. In Tiny Grid is a breeze. This feels like the perfect planner pen for me. Actually, that is not 100% true. I feel like I have been using the Pilot Vanishing Point with my planner, and I have been using this pen with my creative journal. And then just instead of supplementing the reverse side of the Architect here, I have just used a colored fountain pen, like here, to write titles. Here, Tom Cook Trail, Journal It Out. So it feels like this might be my creative journal pen for now. I might just keep these two as creative journal pens. Maybe I will end up with this being my creative journal pen. I'm not 100% sure just yet. But it is definitely a very fun experiment. This is my overall winner. At this point, I am really totally in love with this pen. And one thing that I always find so odd is that now I was loaned this pen. Would I have chosen this color by myself? Probably not. I'm not sure, but I will totally purchase this from Nadia, even though there might be other pens that I like more. I I feel with Sailor Pro Gears or Sailor in general, there's so many varieties to choose from that I wouldn't be able to pick my ultimate favorite. And so I'm glad that somebody else did. And it's really interesting. Would I buy a different one if I could, like, just say, okay, someone else offered me another color in extra fine? No, because I've already grown attached to this color. It's weird like that. Same with my, what was that name? Waterman Karen. I really like that pen now. And I feel weird missing it from my collection, even though it was a pen that I never really was drawn to from the design. I'm not saying that I'm not drawn to this design. I really like it. It will fit in with my collection because I make my collection what I want it to be. But this is the surprise winner, in my opinion, because I had so many other possibilities. Pens that are mine. The one that is winning is the pen that is not mine. Wouldn't you look at that? So I will update you probably on Instagram or in one of my snippets from my desk videos when I have used this. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with the pens that are not working for me because they are specialty grinds. Maybe I'll take them to the San Francisco Pen Show next year and have them have other interested people in these grinds try them and then maybe purchase them. I don't feel like, well, the monoline will write with any hand, any way you hold your pen, but this one is tuned and smoothed and ground to the way that I hold my pen. So it will feel odd to sell this with a grind that was specially made for me. So I would rather have the other person test it. And I'm also not sure that I'm selling it on just yet. But those are the thoughts that are going through my mind. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative. You learned something. I thought this experiment in general was just easy breezy, confirming that I like what I like. I didn't think it was so intricate and hard to find a replacement pen for an already working thing. I'm currently gravitating to just using this as my creative journal pen and then supplementing this looks like my pen lineup at the moment for Platinum Carbon Black. Are you having dedicated pens for your journals, like your specialty journals? Another reason why I love this is because I am sketching in here. I'm using watercolor. Let me show you something that I hear like this. And so I know that when I'm going in with my water brush and watercolor that I'm not smudging any of the ink. That's why having a document ink is important for me in the first place. And yeah, I would love to know if you have dedicated pens to document inks, what you use document inks for. Do you have a sketching pen? What is it? What do you love about it? What do you not love about it? And have you done an experiment like this before? Leave it all in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Until then, bye.